Right, then we have 14 attendees so far, and welcome everyone to Microsoft 365 Virtual Marathon. Thank you for attending, and we hope you're having a great conference. I'd like to introduce Vignesh Ganesan and Vijai An Ramalingam. Vignesh and Vijay An will be presenting a session titled Skype for Business to Microsoft Teams, Guidance for Successful Upgrade. So Vignesh, you can take it away.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for the great introduction. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great conference, and thank you so much for joining my session today. So our session today would be on Skype for Business to Microsoft Teams, and we are going to give you some guidance which you might need to think of if you're in this journey. So my name is Vignesh Ganesan, and I work as a technical specialist for the Microsoft 365 solution area. And so just in case if you haven't marked your calendar yet, we have an exciting news. The Microsoft 365 conference is going to happen on March 23 and 25. So please go ahead and mark your calendars for that. And I'd like to thank our sponsors on behalf of all the organizers, all the speakers, and also on behalf of all the attendees, because without them, a session like this is not possible. So thanks on behalf of everyone. So let me introduce myself. So my name is Vignesh Ganesan. So I work as a technical specialist for the modern workplace solution area at Microsoft India. So part of my role is to help my customers in their digital transformation using Microsoft 365 solutions. I mainly focus on Teams, SharePoint, and other collaborative areas which you have in Microsoft 365. I've been a blogger for quite some time. I blog on my own blog site, which is Vignesh SharePoint Thoughts. I also write articles for the European SharePoint community, Collab 365, C Shop Corner, and Hubfly blog site. In addition to that, I myself and my co-speaker Vijay Anand, who will be partnering with me today, we guys have spoke on a lot of webinars, user groups, and conferences. And I'm the ambassador for AOS community in India, and I also lead the C Sharp Corner chapter from Bangalore, and I've done a lot of Microsoft certifications over the years. Along with me, I have my co-speaker Vijay Anand. So he works as a modern workplace architect at Cognizant UK. So he's a Microsoft MVP, and he has done some pretty great stuff in the community. So he has written almost 1,300 blogs. He has written 7 books. And so myself and Vijay, we've spoken on a lot of SharePoint Saturday events, boot camps, Power Platform boot camps, a Microsoft Ignite tour, and there's a lot of stuff that we keep doing back here in India. All right, with that being said, let me jump into our session today. And this is what we have for you today, right? So the agenda would be on, we'll try to understand why you should even think about upgrading to Teams if you haven't done that yet, right? I believe a lot of you folks who have joined our session today would either be in your journey from Skype for Business to Teams, or you're just using Skype for Business only, or maybe you're using Skype for Business on premises and you want to understand, hey, if I'm going to do upgrade, so what are those things that I need to be mindful about, right? So we'll begin by understanding what is the need for me to even, what is the value prop? Why should I even think about upgrading to Teams? Then we'll be talking about the upgrade framework. Right, for you to do something, there should be some kind of a framework that you need to follow, right? And that framework should be something which has been very well adopted. Now, say for instance, TOGAF is a framework where people follow for enterprise architecture, right? For similar for that, from Microsoft, we have the upgrade framework for the Skype for Business to Teams upgrade. So I'll be talking about the upgrade framework, and then we'll be talking about how do you plan the upgrade from Skype for Business to Teams, right? And of course, for a session like this, we couldn't really have demos because the recent Office 365 tenants that we get is by default only on Teams only mode. So it was not possible for us to demo all these experiences, but of course we have captured enough screenshots so that we can give you an experience as good as doing a demo. We'll be talking about the end user experiences when you're in this upgrade journey. We'll be talking about the different coexistence modes, which is also called as the upgrade modes. Then we'll be talking about what are the environment and network considerations that you might need to look at if you're planning to have Teams. Right, and then we'll be talking about if at all you're interested to migrate your voice. Right now, voice is is really a big modality when it comes to Microsoft Teams or Skype, right? Now that is the heart of collaboration. And if at all you want to migrate those, maybe you're using some investment on Skype for Business Online, right? Or maybe you're a Skype for Business on-premises customer. And how do I migrate my voice workloads to Teams, right? If that is something which you're interested upon, we have some stuff for you as well. Then we'll end this session by talking about some useful resources which we want to share with you. And then of course, we'll be taking the Q&A during the course of the session, meaning on the chat, I'll be answering questions. So Vijay will also be answering questions. And even at the end of the session, we'll be taking some questions. If you're all good, let's go and get started. So let's begin by understanding why should I even upgrade to Teams? Why should I even be bothered about Teams, right? Now, this is what we have. Now, of course, Skype for Business is a great communication tool. There is no denying at all in that. The stuff has been working perfectly fine for years. We all loved it. It was pretty cool, right? But this is what Microsoft Teams could do for you, right? Because Skype was more into meeting, chatting, calling, video calling, conferencing. That's about it. But when you think about Teams, we call that as the hub for teamwork in Microsoft 365. In addition to whatever I spoke about in Skype, it gives you a lot of collaboration features. You could start collaborating in documents, you could have workflows, you could have apps. And I don't even think I should be giving a detailed overview of Microsoft Teams because I believe everyone understands what Teams is and what are the modalities you have in Teams and what is the power of Teams. Right. And if at all you want to go from the Skype for Business world to Teams world, there is of course a lot of value prop that you would see, and I'm pretty sure your users are going to love it. And another reason for you to upgrade to Teams is this, because we from Microsoft, we are planning to retire the Skype for Business Online on July 31st, 2021. So that's the D-Day. And if at all you're looking to upgrade, so it's better you plan it soon, because on 2021 July 31st the Skype for Business Online service would be shut down. I mean, Skype for Business on premises is still going to be running. The 2019 version of Skype for Business on premise is already out. So for the on premises customers, that's a different discussion altogether. But if you as an organization are still using Skype for Business Online, it's very important that you start planning your upgradation. Now let's try to understand the Skype for Business to Teams upgrade. Teams is more than a technical migration, and whatever content we are showing you today, the slides and all, so this is something which we from Microsoft, we use this for for workshops for our partners or customers, right? And so me as a technical specialist, I do a lot of these workshops to my customers, so it is the same content which we have used here. So with Teams is more than a technical migration. And these are sort of the 4 pillars which you need to look at in a migration. Now, this is not specific only to Teams. This could be for any change which is happening in your organization, right? Now, change doesn't automatically happen, right? Now, resistance is a normal human behavior. Whenever something new is thrown at us, we are just not quite comfortable with that because we are sort of in love with what we have been doing for quite some time, and we fail to see the value in the new solution that is thrown to us. And that's a normal human behavior. You can't just go ahead and complain people about that, right? And shadow IT is something which is more prominent. And if at all you're coming from a security background, we all know how much of these third-party apps which we are using in our organization, which we are not supposed to use to. Now, say for instance, you're not supposed to share any corporate information in WhatsApp. I believe there is no company who approved WhatsApp as an official communication app. And I still see a lot of our customers, sharing corporate information over WhatsApp, which is not really the right way for you to share a corporate information, right? And that is a perfect example of shadow IT right there. And people and change are not one size fits for all, right? And if you look at any organization, it could be even your organization, maybe you're responsible for the Skype for Business to Teams upgrade in your organization, and you're the one who's putting the plan together. Of course, in your organization, you'll be seeing people who are really like, that's cool, just bring on that new stuff. I want to try it, right? This is really cool. I want to use it. So they are people, whenever you throw them a new technology, they're happy with it. They just want to go and use things, and they want to understand, what is there, how can they use the solution, and how can they be benefited from that. And of course, you also have some people who are laggards, and they're not really comfortable with that. They're just more comfortable with whatever they've been using for quite some time, and they're just comfortable with that, right? And if you go and tell them that, hey, this is something new, Why don't you go ahead and use that? The only thing which they're gonna tell you is, you don't know me, you don't understand my job. Why are you even telling me what I'm supposed to use, right? And you just can't help those people because that's the way they are, and you really need to, you know, help them in the upgrade journey and take them to where you want to get them to, right? And then you have the technical and user readiness, which goes hands in hand. This is where the planning phase, the pilot phase, the deploy phase, everything runs together. So in our session today, we'll be talking on the fourth pillar, wherein we'll be focusing more on the technical and user readiness. And this entire session would be more around these areas. So this is how your upgrade journey from Skype for Business to Teams would look like, right? You can either go directly right from Skype to directly to Teams only, or you could be in one of those coexistence modes and you can take a journey, right? Now, if you're a small organization, let's say 25 users or 50 users, it's quite possible for you to just pull the plug and say, that's it, we are done with Skype for Business online. Now let's go ahead and use Teams. It's even that simple. But that's not the case when you're running a large complex organization, right? So things have to be running smoother because there is a lot of dependency in the existing Skype for Business online. You just cannot pull the plug and you just cannot put all your users into Microsoft Teams. Your users are going to be mad about that change, right? So you need to plan them, and that is what we are going to talk about in our session today. And this is how the customer journey would look like from Skype for Business to Microsoft Teams. If you have already started using Teams, awesome, really good. Just plan your upgrade to Teams and just say, yeah, upgrade to Teams only. If not, if you're currently using Skype for Business only, then this is the path that you need to take, right? So I'm going to give a pause here and help and let you folks take a good look at this. Okay. Now, this is the upgrade framework that I was talking about, and you have a pretty good documentation about this in docs.microsoft.com, right? So this begins by you identifying the project stakeholders, right? When I say the project for you to migrate from Skype for Business to Teams. You would gather the right sponsors and project team, and then you define the project. So what is my end goal? Am I supposed to go to completely Teams only, or am I gonna be on some coexistence mode? That is my end goal, right? I want to go out of Skype for Business, but where do I want to get from here, right? So that is how you would define what is going to be the end goal that I'm looking at. And the technical readiness and user readiness. Am I technically ready to have Teams deployed in my environment? It starts from your environment readiness, from your from your network readiness. It could be user readiness. It could be even the endpoints, your mobile devices or computers or what have you in your environment, right? And then we'll be talking about the deploy and implementation. Let's say everything is ready. That's fine. Now, how do I deploy this? Teams is really massive. Without proper planning and without proper guidance, you won't be able to successfully deploy this solution, right? So how am I going to deploy it? And at last, hey, awesome job, I've deployed it, but still my users are not using it. Nobody is bothered about that. Nobody even opens the Teams desktop client. So then that means you literally failed, right? So how do I get my users adopting the solution, right? How do I drive that adoption? How do I make sure that my users use Teams as their collaboration tool? So this is what this entire upgrade framework focuses about. And if at all you're in your upgrade journey, I would recommend you folks to go ahead and spend a good amount of time reading this and understanding how it works. Now, before we speak about the technical side of things, let's try to understand the different coexistence modes or the upgrade modes. We call this either as coexistence, or you can even call this as upgrade modes, right? And your tenant can be on either one of these modes. You can either be on Skype for Business only, meaning all your users are just on Skype for Business only, or you could be either on Teams only mode, meaning everybody is using Teams only, or you could be on island mode. So the first mode, which we call as island, which means in your company, you have both Skype for Business online as well as Teams running. There are a separate set of people who are in the Skype island mode only, meaning they have their chat, meeting, callings, everything happening only within Skype. And then there are a different set of people who have been migrated in Teams. They are on the Teams island. They are in their own island where they use Teams for their chatting, calling, meeting, and things of all that sort. Right? We call this as two different islands. And of course, in this scenario, there is not going to be any interop between these two modes. This is going to run uniquely and this is going to run uniquely, right? The user presence, things of all that sort will be different on both the modes. Okay. Then say for instance, you plan to migrate few users, you plan to upgrade few users. You could be doing Skype for Business, you move them to Teams, and then you say, hey, I can have an intro between Skype for Business to Teams, but I'll also give them collab so that your users, they're chatting, their private meet, private chatting, private calling, everything will be happening on Skype for Business only, but you'll just introduce the collaboration features in Teams wherein they can use the channel, document collaboration, things of all that sort. Next, what you do is, in addition to you introducing the collab features, you could also introduce meetings. We call that as the meetings first mode. So Skype for Business with team, collab, and meetings. Now, of course, we are going to do a detailed walkthrough of how these experiences will look like, how the users will see their Teams client and test and the Skype for Business client during this journey. But this is just for you to lay the land and help you understand what are the different modes, and this is something which you need to be having, we should be having an understanding even before we jump into that discussion, right? So Teams only mode, that is our end goal. So that is where we want to get to, which means everybody is on Teams. There is no Skype for Business online footprint at all, not at all. So Teams is used for everything, right? And this is how the journey would be going as, and we'll be using all these different kind of modes for that. Okay, now with that being said, I'm going to give it to my co-speaker Vijay, who's going to help you understand how this entire experience is going to look like. Over to you, Vijay.
Okay, thank you, Vignesh. I hope you're able to see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So let's see how we can define the path to Microsoft Teams. Okay, so here what we are going to discuss is the starting point is Skype for Business. We are not going to consider any other products or any other things over here. We are just going to consider only Skype for Business as a starting point, how we can move this Skype for Business to Microsoft Teams. Okay, so as we know that the endpoint is always the moving all the users to Teams only. That would be our endpoint. And when we are doing this upgrade, the main important thing is, or the critical success factor is driving the adoption. So it is not something like you move all the users to Teams only and asking them to use it. So it is going to be very difficult. So unless you make sure that the user has the experience of Teams, then please don't move them to Teams only. They should have some enough time for the adoption. And for that adoption, you have a lot of training materials, videos, like there are a lot of workshops that you can provide to the end users so that they get the experience of using Teams. Then we can move all the users to Microsoft Teams only mode. So when we are doing this, when we are upgrading to Microsoft Teams from Skype for Business, we need to have some key considerations by deciding the path. So we will be discussing in detail what are the different paths or different approaches available. But before doing that, we need to consider a few things. So how we are going to do it? So are we going to have overlapping features, like we are going to have chat and calling in both the clients, or like only selected features? For example, we are going to use Skype only for chat calling and chat calling meetings, and we'll have Teams for collaboration and other purpose. So that is what we need to decide, or we need to consider before we are doing this upgrade. And the next thing is, like, are we going to move all the users at once from Skype for Business to Teams only, or cohorts, like batch by batch? So that is the second consideration that we need to do before we are deciding our path, and how long we are going to keep both the Skype and Teams. So basically the velocity to move the users to Teams only. So these are the considerations that we need to have it before we are deciding our path. Okay, again, so whatever we are discussing here, it depends on case to case or scenario to scenario, based on the number of users in the organization, based on the current platform. So it differs. It's all just like a suggestions based on the experience from the customers. So which coexistence path should customer take? So whatever we are seeing in the slide, it's basically a summary what we are going to discuss in the other slides. Okay. So there are two things. One is Teams side by side to Skype for Business with chat, meetings, and calling. And the other one is Teams side by side with selected features. The first one is basically the overlapping features, which is again the side by side. The second one is the selected features side by side. So the first one is also called as island mode, okay, where you are running both the clients side by side. You have Skype for Business as well as you are running the Teams. Okay, the next one is Teams side by side with selected features, which means that you are running both the clients side by side, but the features you have the selected features from Microsoft Teams. Basically, as I mentioned before, in the Skype you will have chat, calling, meetings, whereas in the Teams, you will have only the collaboration feature first, and then slowly you move the meetings from Skype to Teams, and then the next one is chat and calling. So like selected features alone you will be using. So these are the two approaches that we are going to discuss in detail. Okay. So what is upgrade? We'll see how the experience would be. So when all the users moves to Teams only mode, so how the experience would be for the users. So this is basically the Teams only experience where all the users are being upgraded to Microsoft Teams. Okay, either like all at once or through cohorts. So the user experience would be like all the features or all the things like whatever the calling features or chat features or meetings, everything will get initiated and landed in Microsoft Teams only because we are in the Teams only mode. Okay, if you want to have a chat, you will just initiate the chat, and then if you are receiving any chat, you will be getting everything in Microsoft Teams. And also you will have make use of the other collaboration features, apps, and whatever you have, you will make use of the Teams only. And also if you see here, so that is what we discussed, chatting and chat and calling. So you'll be receiving and initiating all the calls in Teams only, and meetings also you will be in the Outlook. If you go, you will be able to see only the Teams meeting. You can only schedule a Teams meeting. And also all your data also gets migrated. Data in the sense all your existing meetings will get migrated to Teams only, and existing contacts also from Skype for Business, it gets migrated over here. Okay. So which means that everything you will be doing it in Teams client only. So what will happen during the upgrade? What will happen to Skype for Business? So you will still have the Skype for Business, right? So what will happen to that? So this is what the experience would be. So basically this will allow only the redirection experience to the users, which means that you will have a notification telling that the organization has already started using Microsoft Teams. They will provide the links to that. Just click on that and go to that and go to that particular Teams client. Still in the Skype for Business, it will have a meeting only experience, as I told, redirection experience as well as a meeting experience, which means that you will be able to join the meetings from the Skype. Like you will have a links over here. So you can see here join. It can be either Skype online meeting, or it can be Microsoft Teams meeting, but you will be seeing all the meetings over here, existing meetings over here, and then you can just click on the join and it will take you to the respective client. If it is a Skype meeting, it takes you to the Skype client. If it is a Microsoft Teams meeting, it takes you to the Microsoft Teams client. Okay, but you will not be able to schedule any Skype for Business meeting. It shows all the existing meetings. Just on one click, it will take you to the meeting experience. And also you can see the chat history available here. So these are the only things that you will be seeing in the Skype for Business when you are doing the upgrade. Okay. So we'll see, recognize the paths available for migration. So we have discussed, right, initially in one of the slide we were discussing that there are two approaches that we are going to discuss in detail. So we are just going to see one by one. So the first approach is side by side with overlapping features, which means that it is an island mode. Coexistence mode is called island mode. What you will be doing here is, so I'll just click here. Yeah. So this is what is going to happen. So you're going to run the Skype for Business as well as the Teams side by side, which means that both the clients will be running parallelly. with all the features, overlapping features in the sense, if you see here in the Skype, you have chat calling meetings, whereas in the Teams also you have chat calling and meetings. Basically, it's a two different products or two different clients that you will be running side by side to get the experience of how the Teams is working. Okay, so for this one, like adoption is really important because like I'm working for one of the customer where we are doing this particular upgrade, and a lot of questions will be raising like I'm not seeing the presence over here, the presence is different. When I chat from Teams, it is going to Teams only. So it's basically you need to understand these two are different products or different clients, which will be like if you initiate some chat or meeting, it goes to the respective client only, which way I'll show you certain screenshots and explain you in detail. But the user, we need to provide them like a more workshops or trainings or provide them a materials to understand the or get the experience of how these teams work. Okay, and again, when you're going with this particular approach, which means like overlapping features side by side, you can either upgrade all the users to at once to Teams only, or also you can do a cohorts. So this is how it is going to happen. Once first we started with side by side, then the end goal is it goes to the Teams only mode. Again, when you are doing upgrading all the users at once, it is always the recommended path because all the users will have the same experience. Whereas when you go with cohorts, what will happen is few users will be in using Skype for Business, few users will be in Teams only mode. So their interop features get into picture. So might be users get confused. Okay, so for which adoption is really required, or like training programs or workshops is really required. Okay, so the recommended would be moving all the users at once. But again, like in few organizations, that would not be possible because of the other complications. So we'll see how this approach, like how the user experience would be when you're going with side-by-side approach with overlapping features or island mode. So if you see at the top right corner, you can see Skype for Business and Teams, where we have all the features of Skype and all the features of Teams running parallelly. Okay, so what will happen is, as I mentioned, if you are initiating a chat from a Skype, it will go to it will always the receiver also will be getting a chat message in Skype only. If you are initiating a chat in Teams, obviously it goes to Teams only. Okay, so there is no interop features available over here because these two are separate clients. So wherever you initiate or wherever you initiate, the receiving side also will be the same client. Okay, so you can, but always like you can initiate calls and chats from either client. If you want to have a chat in Skype, also yes, you can do it. Even if you want to use it Teams, you can use it. Even the calling also, even the meetings also. Okay, and also you need to understand the presence is separate because since these two are different clients, the presence is going to be different. Okay, this is one of the common thing that users might be raising. Like I'm in a call in Teams, it is showing busy, but whereas in Skype it is showing available. So that is what the experience would be because both are different clients. Okay, and one more thing that we need to understand is the voice related things like meeting rooms. If you have any external communication systems like PSTN calls and all those things, you will be using Skype for Business only. So only when you're moving to Teams only, you can bring all this external communication or meeting room configurations to Teams. Till that, you will be using Skype for Business only. And also consider that you are in an organization where you are using this particular approach, island mode. And also you might be having the vendors who are like federated users. Basically, when they are trying to reach out to you, it will always, you will be getting the chat or call messages in Skype for Business only. Okay, so this is how the chatting and calling experience would be. So coming to the meeting experience. So when you go to the Outlook, you will see both the plugins. You can either use Skype meeting, you can schedule a Skype meeting, or even you can schedule a Teams meeting as they are running side by side with overlapped features. Okay, so this is what the experience would be. You can create both the meetings over here. Okay, so considerations and impact. So whatever we discussed now, so the feature requirements and overlap. So chat and calling will be available in both the products. It will be available in Skype for Business as well as Teams, and scheduling experience also. You will have both the plugins in the Outlook, and you can create either of the meetings. So considering the moving the users, you can do all in once, like all at once. Basically, like you can move all the users from Skype for Business to Teams only. Again, like this is the recommended path so that all the users will have the same experience. But in case it depends on case to case. If you want to go with cohorts, then the experience would be different and the interop features will be coming into picture. Okay, additional considerations. Yeah. So whatever we discussed. So if you have a federated customers, always the chat and calling land in Skype for Business. And if you have any phone systems or if you have the meeting rooms, and all those things will work in Skype for Business only until you move to Teams only mode. Okay. So the next approach, the next path is like side by side with selected feature, select featured migration, selected features migration. So basically, this one will be useful for the organizations where they have on-premise environment. This would be the recommended path because it is not easy for them to move all at once because they might be having the users in on-premises or they might be having some enterprise voice, which is something complex. So it is not easy for them to move exactly using island mode, right? So what they can do is they can use this particular thing with selected features. Both the clients will be running parallelly, or will be running side by side, but with only the selected features. There is no overlapping feature over here. So if you see, the Skype is there. Skype will have all the features, chat, callings, and meetings. Whereas we will run the other product, Teams also, but it will have only the collaboration features. Collaboration features in the sense all the creation of team, creation of channels, adding the apps, tabs, and all those things. Whatever line of business apps and all those things. So like we can have only collaboration features in Teams, whereas all the chat, calling, and meetings we can run it from Skype itself. Okay, the next step, what we can do is we can have only the chat and calling in Skype and we can move the meetings to Teams. Okay, so there is no overlapping feature. Slowly we are moving one by one to the Teams one. So the next one would be, last one would be, then we will be finally moving the chat and calling to the Teams. Again, we need to consider one thing here, chat and calling cannot be separated. It's all integrated. So when you're moving, you need to move them together only. We cannot separate it. So what we saw is like first we'll have the collaboration feature alone, then we will move the teams, then slowly we will move the chat and calling things. Okay. So this is what the approach would be for this one. And it is recommended for if you have on-premise environment. If you have a online environment, if you have Skype for Business online and everything is online, then we would recommend that going with island mode, which is easy. Okay, and we'll now see the experience, how the user experience would be. Okay, so if you see here, you can at the top right corner, you can see the Skype for Business and Teams. So first thing is chat, calling, and meetings, and the Teams will have collaboration features alone. So obviously, like all the chat and callings, so with whomever you chat or receive or initiate, it will be from the Skype for Business only. Okay, and the presence, if you see, it will always use the Skype for Business presence. The reason is the calling and chat features is available for Skype for Business. So the presence also will be whatever is there in Skype for Business. Okay, and then we can push this presence to the Teams. And also interop feature will be available with the Teams only user. That consider a case that like you are using Skype for Business now, right? And there might be users who are in Teams only mode. So in case if they want to interact between each other, then obviously when the Teams user is pinging, it comes to Skype for Business. So interop feature will be available in this case. Okay, whereas in island mode, you don't have that. But whereas here, because in island mode, it is like uh, overlapping features, all the features are available in both the clients. But whereas here, even though we are running side by side both the products, but we have certain features in only one client or one product. Okay. Meeting experience, again, since the meeting experience also would be in Skype only, the reason is all these three things are in Skype for Business. So when you go to the Outlook, you will see this particular plugin, new Skype meeting only, and you can schedule only Skype meeting alone. Yeah. But still in Teams, you can see the new meeting option is available. That is only for the personal meeting, not like how you're scheduling for the others within the team. Okay, as a next step, what we are doing is from Skype for Business, we are moving the meetings here. We are just enabling this particular option, meetings option in Teams. So when you see here calling and chatting, all these things will be the same because there is no difference because it's still in Skype for Business only. But whereas with meetings, now what you will see is you will see only the new Teams, like a Teams meeting over here. The plugin gets changed. The reason is meeting is going to be used by the Teams product or Teams client. Okay. Next step, like if you see the considerations and impact, obviously like a chat and calling will be available only in Skype. The reason is all those features are available in Skype. We are not moved that features to Teams. Okay, and the meeting scheduling also we saw that. So how it would be. And again, in this approach also, you have two things. You can move all the users at once or cohorts also. It depends on like organization to organization based on the different scenarios. Okay, additional considerations again, like phone system capabilities, like PSTN and other meeting rooms, and all those things will be available only in Skype for Business until unless it is moved to Teams only mode. Okay, federation allows the user reachability for chat and calling. So yeah, so all this are the consideration impact when you go with this particular approach. So we'll see some client experience, okay, between Skype for Business and Teams, basically the intra features. Okay, so if you see here, you can see some highlighted things over here in red color. Okay, this person is currently using Skype for Business. Some Microsoft Teams features won't be available. Consider a case. There are few users who are using Teams only, and there are users who are using Skype. Still, they have not yet upgraded to Teams only. So in that case, when you're being a team user, when you're trying to reach out to the Skype user, so this is what you will be seeing. These notifications you will be seeing it. So this person is currently using, and you can see here. And also when you see the chat window over here, you can just send a plain text. You will not have the other features. Basically, you will have only the limited features. So you cannot add any file sharing, emojis, GIFs, and all those things will not be. You can just send a plain text to the other user, Skype user, basically. So you will have only the limited features. And the other part, okay, if you are a Skype user and you want to chat with the team user, well, this is what the experience would be again. So if you see, they will get a message telling that the user with whom you're interacting is only using Teams. Okay, and again, there will be a limited features available. Okay, in order to get these kind of notifications, you need to ensure that you have the latest clients, both Skype as well as the Teams. Then only you will be getting these notifications. Okay, again, the calling experience also is going to be the same. You can call the user. Teams user can call the Skype user and Skype user can call the team user. And it will clearly mention a message telling that is using Skype for Business. Some Teams features won't be available. So yeah, this is the Skype experience would be. Okay, and next one important thing is like sharing the screen. Okay, like I will be able to make a call. I will be able to make a chat. I can chat with the other person who is not even having the Teams user can chat with Skype user. Skype user can chat with Teams user, and same calling also works. What if in case if I need to share my screen? So consider I'm a Skype user. I'm talking with a team user, and then I want to share my screen. So currently this feature is not available. Like basically you cannot start sharing your screen like that. Okay, so what Microsoft has done is they have done some workaround for this particular scenario. What will happen is when you click on share screen sharing, what will basically it will create a meeting invite. So if I'm the Skype user and I want to share my screen, it creates a Skype meeting invite, and that meeting invite will be shared with the team user. So when the team user, when you click on the meeting invite, it just open a browser, or it can, if he is already having the Skype app, it will be just opening it and they can start sharing the screen. And the vice versa will happen again. Vice versa also, it's possible. Like for example, if I'm a team user, I'm chatting with a Skype user, and in case I want to share my screen from Teams client, okay, what will happen is your Teams meeting invite will be sent to the Skype user. And then the Skype user can join the Teams meeting and they can share the screen. All the capabilities will be available. Okay. How about joining the meeting? Okay, so you are like one user is team using Teams, team only user, the other user is Skype user. Okay, so here you don't you need to consider that both the meeting both the products have their own meeting platform. Okay, for example, if it is a Skype meeting, it is you can join this you can join that meeting using the Skype client only. If it is a Teams meeting, you can join that meeting using Teams client only. Okay, so both are different platforms. Sorry for that. Okay, so consider, for example, here it is a joint Skype meeting. This is a Skype meeting. Okay, once you click on this, it is going to take you to the native client, okay, or the web client like this. And if in case if it is a Teams meeting, you just need to click on the join button and it is going to take you to the either the client or the browser. It is going to be Teams only. So since it is both are different platform and they have their own meeting experience, which means that if you want to join a Skype meeting, it will take you to the Skype client only. It can be a browser, it can be an app, whatever it is. Similarly, if it is a Teams meeting, when the user wants to join, irrespective of what client they have it, it takes you to the Teams client only. Okay, so this is what the mobile experience would be. Okay, so again, like as I mentioned, if the user is a Skype, if they already upgraded to Teams, so they can see their existing meetings over here and the existing chat history over here. Okay, existing basically meeting history over here, and they can just click on join, and it will take them to the respective client. So you can see this experience how it would be for mobile. Okay, they just need to click on join and it will take you to the respective client for joining the meeting. Similarly here. Okay. Now let's see define upgrade path most suitable for your organization. So now we spoke about what are the different approaches. Basically, we discussed two approaches. One is side by side with overlapping, and the other one is with the selected features, right? So how we can decide which one to go with? So in each organization, they have the different environments, right? So if you consider the scenarios, there are different scenarios. So one is online, the other one is hybrid, and the other one is on premises. So in some organizations, they can be all the users might be using like a Skype for Business online, voice, everything in the online thing. In few organizations, they might be in hybrid mode, like hybrid thing. Yeah, what does it mean is few users might be in on-premises, few users might be in online, and their enterprise voice thing might be like in on-premises. So that can be an hybrid thing. On premises, they are completely into on premises. Okay, all the users are on premises. So these are the three different scenarios which most of the organization will fall into, right? Based on the scenario, how we can select the approach. Again, whatever approaches that has been mentioned, it's based on the experiences, customer experiences. It's not really required that you need to follow that path, but we'll just go to the next slide. So this is how you can choose your path. Whatever we discussed till now, I just put it on a tabular format. like what are the overlapping capabilities, select capabilities, how the chat and calling works, meeting works, collaboration best suited for, in which scenario this approach is suited for, and what are the considerations. Before even we are going to select which approach are we going to do it, we need to consider certain things, like whether we have the meeting rooms, like all those things, like what we are going to do with the federated chat, what we are going to do with the phone system, are all the devices readiness is available. So we need to consider all those things before even you go and select which approach are we going to take it. Okay. And this is the one, again, as we mentioned, it's based on the experience, it's preferred path. If it is purely, if you're in your organization, you're having an online thing, if the scenario is online where everything is in online, so then you can go with overlapping capabilities, basically the island mode. Okay, side by side with overlapping features. And again, like if you have a hybrid, then you can go with overlapping capabilities as well as select capabilities. And in case if it is on-premise, then again, a combination of these things. Okay, so this is how, based on your scenario, you can select the approach, which approach you want to go. And again, it can be a mix match. Okay, and yeah, before that, you need to have two things. One is the key considerations and the other one is the adoption thing. Okay, yeah, Vignesh.
All right, thank you, Vijay. So now let's look into the voice migration capabilities. Let me quickly bring up my presentation here. All right, Vijay, I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's look into how to migrate the voice services to Teams, right? So that is something which we saw in our agenda, and that is the last part of our session today. So in order for you to get somewhere, you need to be aware of from where you're already, right? So what is your origin? Only then you'd be able to make the right decision to get somewhere. And that is nothing different for your voice migration as well. So in your Skype for Business online, you could be having the Microsoft calling plans, which is part of which, you buy a phone system and then you attach a calling plan to it, right? Or you could be having the Cloud Connector edition, right? Now that is something wherein, it is a VM setup wherein you could have a partial setup of Skype for Business or link server on premises, not a full-fledged setup. And you would be using your the PBX for your I'm sorry, you would be using your PSTN callings. Everything would be done using from your on-premises EV, and for your PBX, you would be using the online side of things, right? It is a mix and match, and it's quite a complex architecture to build and host, right? And if you are using these capabilities in Skype for Business online, and say for instance, if you're a Skype for Business on-premises customer, wherein you're using OPCH, right? And in OPCH, you would be using, say for instance, you would be a user in the online, meaning you would be an Office 365 user, but in order for you to take advantage of the voice workloads, you would be taking advantage of the ones which is built on the Skype for Business on-premises. The enterprise voice modality would be running in Skype for Business on-prem. You would be doing chatting and things of all that sort using the online side of things, and for you to take advantage of the voice functionality, you would be taking advantage of the ones which you have invested on the on-prem. That is what we called as a OPCH, or you could be completely fully on-prem. Maybe chat, meetings, video calling, audio calling, everything happens on premises. Now this is where we are currently, right? Now let's imagine that this is the scenario where you are on, and let's say you want to migrate all these workloads to Teams, and let's understand how you get there. And in order for you to get to Teams, there are just only two options. That's it. It's literally that. That's it. There are only two ways for you to get to Teams, right? If you want to migrate your calling plans to Teams, of course, there is no migration needed at all, right? Because as I said, it's just a matter of you to flip the coexistence mode, right? From Skype for Business only mode, you would flip to Teams only mode, and that's it. From that moment onwards, the calling plan would just work. And there is literally nothing that you need to do. However, when it comes to the CCE version, maybe you could port the numbers, and that too you need to be more. This is country specific. Not all countries allow this, so you need to look at the specific countries wherein the number portability is allowed, and how whether your telco is okay with that, whether they offer this as a solution, and things of that sort, right? Or you could directly migrate to direct routing. Now, direct routing is a solution wherein if you do not have calling plans in that country, in your country, now say for instance, I'm at India. In India, we do not have a calling plan facility yet, right? We have phone system, but we cannot have a calling plan yet. In that case, we need to leverage a direct routing wherein you can take advantage of your existing SBC, hook it up, and then add those both, and that could act as a phone system for you, right? So you need to migrate to direct routing in those scenarios. And for customers who are coming from Skype for Business on-prem, right? And if you look at these first three approaches, be it a calling plan, being a CC edition, or being an OPCH, in all these three scenarios, the user is online. The user is on Skype for Business online, right? In the third scenario, as I said, the user is Skype for Business online. He would just take advantage of the on-premises voice workloads for all the voice modalities that he need to consume. Right. In all these scenarios, you could just either port your numbers or you could do direct routing based upon your scenario, whichever suits your need and whichever works for your country. Whatever, and this is all more region specific, right? In some countries wherein you do not have number portability and you have an SBC that you have already invested upon, then you can go ahead and do direct routing. What if you're completely on premises? I'm sorry. What if you're completely an on-prem? You're a completely fully on-prem customer, and maybe due to legal reasons, or maybe there is a lot of investments that you have made on the on-prem, such as contact cards, and there is a lot that you have done, right? In that case, you could directly migrate a user from your Skype for Business on-prem to Teams. That's literally possible. And the way you should do that is you should be either running Skype for Business on-prem 2015 CU8, nothing lesser than that. Or if you're in Skype for Business on-premises to 2019, it's just a commandlet wherein you can directly take the user to Teams only. I mean, he goes through Skype for Business online to Teams, but you can directly migrate the user to Teams only mode. And that is how you would migrate a user from your Skype for Business on-prem to Teams. The key thing you need to note there is whether you're running the right version of on-premise Skype for Business. And for folks who who hear this terminology called as direct routing first, this is what it means, wherein you could use your existing SBC investment and hook it up into a PSTN so that you can use that as a calling facility. Right. So the best part about the SBC here is, if I even go back to the slide before, now based upon the direct, it'll look at when a call comes in, it'll understand, okay, this particular user, he's in a cohort, he's on Teams only mode, it goes to Teams, right? It'll directly route the call to Teams. This particular user, he's in the Skype for Business with Teams meeting coexistence mode, let me put him into Skype. So the SBC will be smart enough to route based upon where the call is coming from. So at the end, so these are all what we spoke about. We began by speaking about what is the Teams migration, why you need to invest on it, and what are the different modes that we have. And so Vijay gave you a detailed walkthrough about all the user experiences in all these different modes. And then we also spoke about the how you would migrate a voice, how would you migrate the voice modalities from your on-prem or from Skype for Business online to Teams. So it doesn't end here. Your journey doesn't end here, and there are some useful resources and recommendations that we want to offer. So these are all some useful resources which we want to offer you from Microsoft. And as I said, this is a content which we do as workshops for our partners and our enterprise customers. And this is the resources that we share with them. And later, when the slide is available with you folks can go ahead and start, looking into these links and be benefited from them. And if at all you want to start deploying Teams, these are some network considerations that you need to look at. Bandwidth is really key when it comes to Teams. I can't urge the importance of it, because even tomorrow, if you raise a case with Microsoft support and say, hey, it's not working the way I expect it to work, the first thing they're going to look at is how does your bandwidth look like. If it is not as per our recommendations, then you're caught right there. So please make sure that everything is as per Microsoft's recommendation. And these are some PowerShell references. This is basically when you want to move specific users from one cohort to another cohort, right? So this is from one mode to another mode. That's it. And we are at the end of our session. So if at all you want to win some raffles, this is the link for that. And then if at all you want to donate for the charity, this is the link for that. And if you liked our session, please go ahead and give us some feedback, because feedback is really the way for us to be much better. Thank you so much for joining our session today. And I hope you guys would become masters in migrating from Skype for Business to Teams. Thank you all. Have an